name is Danielle Gale, and I will be speaking to you about worship leading. Do you feel like you're a leader at your school, maybe in different groups that you're placed in at your youth groups, cell groups? Do you have a love for people, a heart for others, and reaching out to other people? Maybe you simply enjoy playing an instrument or being involved in a school band or a choir. Maybe you simply enjoy jamming out to the radio. But you definitely have a niche for music. Maybe you like writing or composing music on days that you're bored, maybe on a Saturday afternoon or a snow day. If any of these seem to ring a bell, or if any one of these is true, then maybe you would be very interested in worship leading. Since I was about 8 years old, I can remember being called to worship, being called to lead worship. I've always known that that was what God had in store for me. And so since I was younger, I started being involved in piano lessons. I can remember conservatory lessons with my teachers. I was a leader at youth groups in both worship leading and small group leading, in junior high groups, in nursery groups, in children's groups. When I was in grade 12, I moved to the United States and I led worship at a church in Michigan and did youth activities there as well. I am currently majoring in worship leading at Liberty University, and so I'm a sophomore in that. And so I'm going to speak to you a little bit about worship leading. The purpose of this speech is to inform you about what it takes to be a worship leader and give you a basic idea of what worship leading really holds. By the end of this speech, you will be able to understand the benefits of being a worship leader and what it takes to be a worship leader, and maybe have a good idea of what being a worship leader really involves. So there's 3 points that mainly go along with worship leading. The first thing I'm going to emphasize is that we are all called to worship. In Matthew 4:10 it says very strictly, you shall worship the Lord your God. That is a command. And so that just says right there that we are all called to worship. Maybe not all of us are necessarily called to lead worship, but we are all called to worship the Lord our God. I love it in Warren Wiersbe's book. This is called Real Worship, and he says 2 main points throughout the whole book as a theme. The first is that worship is not for us. We're not supposed to worship to get a good feeling inside and feel like we are being spiritually fed, but we are supposed to worship God so that we can reflect His glory back to Him. Another thing is that our worship is supposed to be sacrificial. Our lives are supposed to be living sacrifices unto the Lord. And so this is reinstated in the book Real Worship many times. The second point in being a worship leader is that it requires a lot of preparation. Not only does it require maybe vocal lessons or learning an instrument, maybe taking classes in songwriting or composing, maybe different areas in that, but it really does require preparation. Dr. Whaley, in his book, Called to Worship, he's actually a professor in the Liberty University Studies of Worship. He says that excellence is so necessary in our worship, that we need to perform with excellence because we're called to do everything to the best of our abilities. And so this is a really great book in which he talks about that. I love what Jamie Brown says in his article. He's the associate pastor of worship at Falls Church in Virginia, and he talks a little bit about salaries. And he says that what you can be expecting to earn as a new worship leader would be about $30,000 to $45,000 annually. Many people think that you'll be pinching pennies if you're a worship leader. But in fact, he says that it really isn't that bad. You don't have to expect to be living in a shack for the rest of your life. And so you really can make that with a worship leading salary. If you are in a family, or maybe you're married and you move a lot, or you just have higher expenses, you can probably be expecting to make about $45,000 to $60,000, which is great. After looking at articles, news articles, areas like that I've seen around, I've seen that the average for starting off is about $50,000, so it really is great. The third point is that worship leading never stops. It's a 24/7 thing that you do. You are supposed to be the same on stage and off the stage. We're supposed to be representatives of Christ, and so people should not be able to decipher a difference between our actions on and off stage. Romans 12:1 says that our lives are to be living sacrifices. And so if God has anointed you, if He's called you, then He will anoint you and He'll bless you in your worship so that you can lead others. Finally, if God is pulling on your heart to do it, maybe to lead worship or to be involved in the music at your church, then God will anoint you and He will provide a way. I love the verse in Proverbs 3:5 that says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and He will guide your paths." Thank you.